What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Pam, and today we're going on a plant tour. It's my whole collection, every single plant. I'm going to show them all to you in their actual conditions, which some of them are not perfect. And we're going to talk about them. So let's get started. All right, so we are going to start in here, and this is my dining room, which will eventually become more of a sitting room. That's in the future plans right now. It is a dining room and has a dining room table in it and all of my plants, basically. But probably 3/4 of my collection is in here. Okay, so we will start over here, and full disclosure, the knowing every single plant name immediately, like immediate recall level of my obsession left me about 2 years ago. So there may be plants that I can't remember the name of, and I will just put it on the screen, or you guys can let me know down in the comments if I don't have a name for something, but I think I probably have everything. We'll see. So over here we have a Hoya carnosa princess, and she is obviously gorgeous and full and needs a repot at some point because I think she is quite overfilled her pot at this point, and it's been growing a lot lately. And as with most of the plants you're about to see, I believe that is because I have started using systemic insecticide, which is a powder that goes into the soil and it just kills anything that's sucking on the leaves. It's not a very effective miticide from what I understand, but it works really good on thrips, and I definitely hit my breaking point with trying any other method. We just went nuclear and gave pretty much everything, a treatment or two at this point with that, and I have not seen any thrips. So far, I don't expect that they're entirely eradicated, but I can tell by the fact that all of my Hoyas are suddenly growing in a much quicker and healthier fashion that I may have been dealing with something on the Hoyas. Now, I'm not sure if what I'm using works for flat mites. I want to say that it does. And it certainly seems to work on flat mites if that was the issue with my Hoya. So I'm not sure. It could have been the thrips as well. Who knows? The point is they're all growing again, and I'm very happy. Back to the tour. So this is the world's saddest goldfish plant, and it has stones in it. I don't usually do that because my cat is just determined to dig this out. So I think at this point, because so much of it has died back, it was a big plant that I may just give it like a really hard haircut and maybe move it out of this window and put it into a bit more of an intensive care situation, or I might just throw it outside into the trash. You hear that? Here is my ZZ Raven, which used to be a lot more full, and I think the thrips or something, maybe neglect, who knows? I don't really know what happened. I don't really remember, but it seems to be growing back. One of this branch here is the most recent one, so I don't know. Seems okay, so she's gonna hang out here and hopefully continue to grow. We don't know. Okay, here's a begonia in a jar. You're gonna see a few of these because sometimes I don't like to deal with drama, so I put drama into glass. You can see there's all kinds of roots coming out in there, so I'm sort of air rooting this plant by accident. Ow. Yeah, so I could cut a little piece of that off and put it into a new pot, which is probably what I will do. But that's another cool thing about keeping stuff that can handle high humidity in jars. And if it's the summertime and it's, very humid, I'll just sort of leave it open like that. Or after I water it, sometimes I'll leave it open a little bit just to not be too much in there. Up here is Twiggy, and Twiggy is looking a little sad right now. I think the seasonal change is making her a little bit unhappy, but she is my Chinese money plant, and this is a Pachira aquatica is the proper name for it, and I've had it for probably like 8 years now, and I got it in just a little 4-inch pot, and it was woven with 2 other sticks, and the other ones died off and just left Twiggy here. So she's kind of like my little houseplant palm tree, and I love her very much. Here is a just forever sad philodendron. Supposed to be a Prince of Orange, has never really looked very orange. I think it may be a different one, but it's always looked pretty sad, and I think it's just always had pest problems. Hopefully those days are now over because of the aforementioned treatment that I've been doing. So we'll cross our fingers and see how she does from now on. But she's always been a bit ugly, dare I say. But you know, we've been together a long time. Another philodendron over here that I have lost the tag for. I can't remember which kind of philodendron this is, but you can see that it is growing all kinds of, ew, it's sticky. It's growing all kinds of weird and funky here, so I will probably at some point propagate this because the very long stem up to that point is a bit ridiculous. Ooh, we're looking at my bad manicure finger. I have apparently lost the tag to this Hoya. I think I can put it on the screen though, because I'm pretty sure I remember where I got it. But she is growing like, I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's gone up here. We're over here now, hanging out up here, heading for the window. So she's a bit of a all over the place Hoya, and I love her. So I'm just letting her do her thing. She too is in recovery mode. You can see a bit of that thrip damage there, and I do think it was thrips. All right, so we can come in here. We've got obviously a Hoya lacunosa. I used to have a couple of these, and this is actually the last one that I have left. I accidentally killed the other ones, but you can see it's flowering here. And if you wanted a Hoya that flowers often and is very fragrant, this is definitely the one to go for, in my opinion. You can see the new growth is coming in pretty happy, pretty healthy. So that's great. So over here we've got one of these little euphorbias, and I think that it's possibly been a bit overwatered or possibly a bit underwatered, but it's not dying, so I'm going to count that as a win because succulents in general are not really my thing. I'm going to try not to get bit by any cacti, but an update on the baby cacti. These are the ones that I started from seed. And you can see they're still pretty small. There's one that's kind of putting on some size right there in the front. But they are doing pretty good. You're just hanging in there, being tiny little cacti. And I moved them into this pot probably maybe a year ago now. We've got a Sansevieria. I believe this is the Samurai. This came from Becca de la Plants. And you can see the new growth is very happy. It, you know, had a little bit of damage on it probably from falling over 100 times because it was a very top-heavy plant until I repotted it. See, that's my light timer back here. Usually these guys all have lights, and I will leave a link in the description box for these lights and the timer and anything else that I point out throughout the video. This is my Hoya obscura, and these lights that I have here are a little less strong than the ones that I used to have in here, but when I had these stronger ones in here, this one had a lot of red sun stress, and it looked really pretty. And then it, as you can see, got some issues with the thrips, and then I've been treating it for a while now, and all of this is new growth. So it's definitely getting happy. It was a little overwatered. I noticed that there was some water under here a few weeks ago, so hoping that that doesn't mess with it too much because it was growing quite happy. And back here I've got a variegated Hindu rope. You can see that one is also putting on some new growth finally. This one took a really long time to start growing from the cutting that I got from a friend. And the cutting was actually this whole piece right here. And then everything else has grown since I got it. And I've had it for probably 2, maybe 3 years at the most now. So this right here is a bit of a thirsty begonia black mamba. I probably should have watered my plants before I shot this. So now you're gonna see real life here, my underwater plants. And this one actually had to do a lot of growing back because obviously, I'm just gonna sound like a broken record, but the pests really beat it up. I also had a year of, you know, some not great plant care. This one's gotta come off. So it's recovering from that, but it's recovering very nicely. You can see this cute little new leaf right here. I love this plant. It's one of my favorite goth plants. So then here is the Black Pagoda lipstick plant that was also sent to me from a friend that I met in the plant community. So you can see this one has got, you know, a little bit of signs of neglect here because it was stuffed way in the back here and it definitely dried out. It's in semi-hydroponics right now, and it definitely needs to come out of there and get into a regular pot. So that is on my, so that's on my list of things to do. But you can see it's been flowering and it's put on a ton of growth since I got it while being in the semi-hydro, you know, especially when I was actually taking care of it properly. So that's another one for the rehab. A couple of Phalaenopsis orchids back here, and you can see there's a flower spike on there. That was my first orchid that I bought ever. I think I just got it from the grocery store. And then down here, there's another one back there. Now that one back there has actually never flowered for me. It was a really beat up rescue orchid and it has never quite recovered entirely. I've still got hope. We're just hanging on, you know, it's got some nice roots. It's definitely put some growth on. It just kills off growth, and considering I've managed to rescue a couple other orchids fairly easily, I'm guessing this one just needs a little bit more time. Here's another one that I had never seen flower until it flowered in my care, which was probably one of the most satisfying things that I've ever had with my plant collection. So you can see this one's putting on some more growth here, and then we've got one flower stalk here, and one flower stalk over here, and that one almost always double flowers, and that's a mini Phalaenopsis orchid. So here is one of my Peperomia piccolobondas, and I think I have a couple of these kicking around here. They're very fragile little plants, so I tend to beat it up a bit every time I touch it, but it's pretty happy in this cute little pot right here, so I just try not to touch it too much, and it stays moderately happy. And then back here I've got this little succulent here. It's is it a crassula? I think it's a crassula, and I just gave it a big haircut because it had grown all the way up like Icarus toward the sun here and was burning itself. So I cut a bunch of it and just shoved them into the dirt, and we're gonna see if they will root there. It's worked a couple of times, so slowly we're filling that pot out there. Another beautiful begonia. This one is clearly not getting enough light. You can tell it's like a bit leggy. And this is the begonia taco night. Tuesday is usually taco night here. So this is a beautiful begonia. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. And I think this one's not quite getting enough light under here, possibly not enough humidity either. But you can see the leaves are pretty happy with the ones that are there. And I did just take a few leaves off of it that were looking a little scraggly, so hopefully that will encourage some cleaner growth. I've got a couple of bulbs in here, and these are both Amorphophallus cognac bulbs, and one of them does grow every year. The other one didn't grow yet. I just found it in the pot with the original one, so we'll see. I haven't gotten them to flower yet, but they do grow. I think the thrips took that one out too. Here's a Philodendron Brazil, and this one actually I had cut off the mother plant that got a lot of thrips, and I just took one strand and I propagated it just so I'd still have the plant, and I threw the rest of it away. So it's coming back in quite nicely, very pretty. And then you can see my pothos here. It goes all the way up there and all down through here and all along here and all up there and over there. So she's all over the place. There's a little bit of her everywhere in the apartment. You can see the other Hoya. You can see the other Hoya I was showing you too has actually made its way up there as well. This is a very yellowy Peperomia Hope, which its later growth is doing a little better. I think it needs to be repotted and fertilized. It's just run out of nutrients up there. Sorry about the light. This video is going to be extremely long, so we're just going to do a quick little scan of the top shelf here. We've got another Sansevieria, or Dracaena. Technically, these are Dracaena now, so I'm sure somebody already corrected me from the first one, but yeah, this is actually reclassified to Dracaena, but it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go. So back here we've got a little Haworthia. This is very cute. It's another kind of goth plant that I enjoy. These are called century plants. I'm forgetting the actual name of it, but this came from my grandmother's collection, which my aunt has been keeping since she passed away quite a long time ago, when I was probably 19, I think. And it's never been, it's just never been happy. I think it needs a different lighting situation. So, but it's always been somewhat alive. So it just sits there being somewhat alive. Got a few lithops down here. As you can see, I did kill a couple of them, but these guys are hanging in strong, and these guys as well. So I usually can keep them alive. I must have missed those needing something at some point. And then I've got this little succulent over here just growing out of the pot because it fell in there at some point. I have a very underwatered African violet right here, which I'm going to water as soon as I'm done filming. Whoops. These came from a friend too. They were just all a bunch of little babies that she sent me in a little container, and I stuck them in here, and they're just in some moss and making more babies and just growing. So eventually these are going to get potted up and put into something. And then I've got a bunch of air plants in here. This is where I used to keep my Venus flytraps and stuff, and I would just, you know, prop this thing open and keep them moist, but at some point I just underwatered and killed them. So now it holds all of my air plants for the winter, and that will keep them happy and keep them from dying. They're a little succulent over here. I think they call this one a burro's tail, right? Something like that. Had this one in some form or another for about 10 years. Like, I've propped it and added more over the years, and it's just filled the plant out. But I originally bought it in like a 2-inch container, and it was a teeny tiny little guy, and I've had it for quite a while. So that's one of my older house plants. Back here I've got a barrel cactus that I haven't killed yet. There you go. It's probably not happy, but it's not dead, so that counts. This is a regular plain old green spider plant, so there's no variegation in this at all. This one also came from my grandmother's plant collection, and it is just now finally making little babies here. So I'm pretty excited about that because I've had it for quite a while and it wasn't doing super good. Once again, I think the pests and just treating them better lately has gotten it to finally start growing. And then back here, I've got a rickrack cactus. He's back there. And it just kind of trails all down the side over here. And that one has also wormed its way around, and it's all clearly been a bit thirsty in its time here with me, so that's my fault. So the plants have kind of made their own curtain around the shelf, so it's going to make it really fun if I ever decide to move this. So I try to keep I'd get little clear plastic plates from the dollar store, and I put them underneath all my clay saucers that are touching any kind of nice surface. And that way they don't leave rings or make messes or anything. I just put this here yesterday, so I still need to do that over here. But for the most part, I try to keep it, you know, off of the wood. So that's just a little tip. So as you can see back there is another ZZ plant. I've had this one for probably a couple of years now, and it's just very happy over here. There's a grow light located up here, and that is attached to just like a shower bar that you can expand, and it just holds itself up on the wall. So this whole wall is going to get repainted this winter. That's one of my next projects, so you guys will probably see that as well. Back there I've got another Dracaena or Sansevieria, and that's a got a Begonia Starry Night right here. And this one's pretty durable. It's taken a lot of punishment and bounced back really well every single time, and you can get those ones through Steve's Leaves. Mike's mom got me this cute little guy with a little air plant in here. Probably could use some water. This came from my friend Loxam. They sent me a few of their older cameras, so that was really cool. There's a couple of recovering Thanksgiving cactuses in there. So they were just looking pretty sad. So I stuck them in the jar, and the jar method works for anything that is a jungle plant. And of course those are jungle cactus, so they're very happy. I've got an Aglaonema Maria over here, and you can see that one got a huge chop back again because of the pests, and it's growing back quite nice over here under the grow light. And under here you can see I've got one of those little clip-on lights that you can just get on Amazon or whatever, and that sufficiently lights underneath this shelf and then a lot of the stuff over here, and this stuff also gets some sunlight and daylight from over here. Back over here we have a big old cutting from my friend's grandmother's Christmas cactus, and this one was doing kind of poorly for a little while, so I'm glad that I seem to have figured out what was going on with this, and it's putting on some new growth now. Could probably use a repot at some point soon, but I'm a little bit afraid to touch it. This one also took a beating. You can see I had a lot of Thanksgiving cactus, and they do not tolerate neglect very well, it turns out. This begonia is also a little dry, needs a water, but this one is growing back as well. And I'm also spacing on the name of this one, which is really sad. I will put that on the screen. This is one of my favorite ones. I can't believe I can't remember the name of it right now. But this one definitely took a pretty bad nosedive from lack of water and care, and as you can see, it is just growing back. And so now we will part this cute little Sansevieria / Dracaena here, which has grown quite a bit. Do I have a tag in you? I don't have a tag in you either. I believe this was also sent from a plant friend. And then this is a beautiful cutting from that big pothos up there. And it just happened to be a really pretty, very white strand, and it broke off, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll root it and see if it keeps growing with that same amount of irrigation, and it has. So it's just a really pretty plant. So here's another pothos, and you can see this one is just not very happy. And I believe that I overwatered this one because it doesn't have a very good draining pot, and I think I didn't come back and check. I do think that it got a little bit of damage from that, as well as the pests. So it's just definitely not in very good shape right now, but it might be a pearls and jade. This came from a plant friend as well. Up here, I've got a lace flower plant, and she's not trailing too much right now because I cut a lot of it back. But these are actually really easy to propagate because they're basically just making, you know, they're meant to crawl along the ground, so you'll get roots very easily out of each of these, and they actually kind of drop off at a certain point sometimes. Especially if the plant is stressed out, it will start dropping these, and, you know, probably in the hopes that they'll root and make some more plants. And they have really beautiful flowers. I don't think any of them are blooming right now, but I'll try to see if I can find a picture or something for you. I've got another one back here. So these are really fun plants. I don't see these in a lot of people's collections, and I think they're pretty underrated. You can see I've got another little philodendron cutting back there. More fun little pothos down here, and then in this jar I've got another air plant and my jewel orchids. And right here, we're going to ignore that sad philodendron back there. Right here we've got my pride and joy, who is also really needing a repot because her pot is just, she's busting out of the seams here. This is my Monstera albo. This is also a lovely gift from a lovely plant friend, and she is growing quite nicely. Got all kinds of interesting variegation, and for the most part, most of it has held really strong. This is one of the original leaves that it came with, and it only started looking a bit ratty somewhat recently, so that's cool. Obviously, she needs a longer moss pole because she has outgrown this one, so I've just got to get a little more, and then I'm going to attach her to the pole, let her grow through the spring, and then probably do some propagation finally. You can see all the aerial roots, and I've just been sort of tucking them into the soil down here as they reach the pot. And then this right here should actually probably come out and go somewhere better. This is my little moringa tree. I grew it from seed, and I just chopped the top of it because it was really long and straggly, and I wasn't sure if it was going to grow back, but there you go. And then here we've got my original, very, very old, probably like 10-year-old coleus plant that I haven't done a great job of pruning, so it's a little bit unruly right now. It's usually very bright red and usually really thickly grown in, but since it is not the summertime, it tends to get a little leggy, a little droopy, a little weird, a little hangy planty, but you know, we love her. She's the queen, one of my older plants. And I've got propagations of her growing in the window too, so you know, I start new plants every now and then. And below her, we have a jade pothos that is in a Wally Grow planter that I actually need to get up on the Wally, but I lost my drill bit, so I've got to go to Home Depot and get a new one. So right here I have my variegated string of hearts, and this one was really cool because a string of this just happened to be attached in a regular string of hearts pot that I bought from a local nursery, and I was very surprised to see this variegated piece, and I took it out and I propagated it, and now I've got this lovely little plant which is, has grown quite a bit over here in this window. It goes all the way down there, so it took a very long time for her to really fill out, so quite happy with that. This right here is a curly lipstick plant. This is a cutting from my mom. Back here we have a very sad string of dolphins that we're just gonna pretend like we didn't see. I've got a little IKEA greenhouse right here with an extremely unruly couple of plants. So I've got a philodendron micans in here, next to a philodendron brantianum in here. And I had them in this little greenhouse mainly to keep them away from the thrips, because these are some of my newer plants. I bought these not too long ago, and they've put on so much growth. And I don't think that they ever got the thrips. I apologize for the focus. I don't think that they ever got the thrips, so it seems to have worked, which was nice, but I did treat them anyway just to make sure. Got another air plant in there too, just hiding from the dry air. And lastly, this Sansevieria, or Dracaena, whatever you want to call it, is one of my oldest plants. This one came from my best friend growing up. She moved to Texas probably like 15 years ago now, probably a little bit longer than that, and she gave me some of her house plants before she left, and this is one of them, so I've had that one for quite a long time. Oh yeah, there's that corner of the house, and then that takes us through the entire dining room. Okay, we're in my bathroom now, so I'll show you all the bathroom plants. Okay, so up here, I believe this is the Adansonii base that I cut these cuttings off of. So that's what that is up there. And then I have another one of those snake plants right there. And this is my alocasia, my African mask. And I have two of these. You saw the other one in the living room. And this one is just doing fine. Seems to be living its happy life. It's a little, you can see it's a little leggy because it's not getting quite as much sun as it could probably get. Let me just move it ahead here. Sorry, Frank. Yeah, so I'll just move it a little bit and then maybe that'll help. And then over here, this is my Siltepecana, and I cut this one back all the way to nothing probably about 6 months ago. And it's all grown in like this, so it seems to be doing all right up there. It does tend to get a little forgotten in the watering process because of its location. So I got a couple Hoya up here that are going to be difficult to see right now, so you'll just have to trust me. That one is a Shepherdii, and this one is a Bilibata. You can see a little bit of my Cissus adenopoda, which has wormed its way all up into the top of my sketchy windows, so there it is. A little pencil cactus over here on the window. couple of staghorn ferns that could definitely use a mounting at some point, but this is sort of my lazy way of mounting them. This is just one of those like hanging baskets from like the 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm not really sure when. I know they were always in houses when I was a kid, and this is just how I sort of lazily hang my staghorn ferns, and obviously I take them out of there to water it, and then I let them dry, and then I just put them back in the basket. Got a bird's nest fern down there that's always got at least one ugly leaf. And again, there's my Adansonii, which I have affectionately nicknamed an assholii for reasons. And then I have a Aglaonema right here, which used to be attached to this. And not sure who did that, but they did not confess. I have one of these lucky bamboos here, which is actually a Dracaena, I believe. And eventually I'd like to put this in some kind of substrate that isn't water, but for now it's still in water. I got this a few years ago from some friends after I photographed their wedding. So underneath those friends up here, we've got some of my favorite shelves in the house. It's just on this rickety old bathroom thing that actually came with the apartment. I would eventually like to get nicer shelves, but I do think this is cute. So this little guy over here that there's usually an air plant on top of, but I have them in glass for the winter. I have a Hoya curtisii right here. This is a Hoya pubicalyx. And then we've got the macrophylla and a couple of strings of hearts, which have grown to be quite tangled, quite a mess. Oh, I forgot. And lastly, over here, we've got a philodendron moonlight, which I got this from Josh's Frogs as well. And this thing was very, very small when I got it. So you can see it's put on a good amount of growth in the last 3 years that I've had it. Very cute. I think this might have been in my first ever plant tube video on YouTube, and I just crossed my 3rd year here, so we love her. I got this at the same time as that bootleg Prince of Orange out in the living room, so this one's doing a little better. Okay, and up here under these grow lights, we've got 3 of the Equigenera gang. These guys have been in a couple of videos now, and you can see this one also got totally coated in chunks of neem oil. I'm gonna have to come back through and clean these off again. But they're pretty happy. We repotted these together not too long ago. We have my philodendron plougmanii right here, which has seen better days. It is definitely taking the transition to soil in a way that is browning every single tip. But other than that, it has been growing. You guys gave me a good tip to put this in a long pot because it's a crawler, so I'm gonna do that the next time that I repot this. So thank you for that tip, for those of you who gave me that. We've got the rugosum up there, and it's, you know, it's I've nicknamed this one Icarus as well because it is constantly trying to fly at the sun. And then we have the El Chaco Red over here, which is obviously putting out some new leaves and doing pretty good. Here's the next leaf coming in. They live on top of my TV on a little shelf back there. You can see I put a plastic tray underneath them just to keep it from wrecking my shelf. We are in my bedroom. I don't keep a lot of plants in here, but there are some of my favorites in here. So these two, these are my little Brooklyn plants from when I went up to Brooklyn, New York, and I met Pamela. And they are growing really well for me, and that's like very satisfying. Like I feel like it's not really your plant until it puts on new growth in your care, you know? And over here, we've got the Hoya obovata. This is the Splash. And this is the same thing. It's grown so much since I got it. This is new. This whole thing is new. That one is also really happy. And I've been treating these two with systemic basically since I got them. So I've never seen any pests on them. There are like a few leaves that make me think maybe at some point they got on there, but so far so good. And then here is my Philodendron elegans. And as you can see, I have cut it because it was growing just a really long you know, one singular strand. I think this is more of a crawler or climber. But since I have propped it, it has grown quite a bit, and pretty soon I'll be able to combine these into a pot together, and that should look quite nice. But this one really got beat up by the thrips early on. Oh, I actually lost quite a few leaves off of it, and then I removed it from the apartment entirely. Basically, it was out in the hallway for the last few months, and it seems to have resolved its issues in that time, so that's nice. We have my Tenanthe. I'm forgetting what the variety name is on here. Let me see. So here we've got my, it's actually, I think it's a Tenanthe actually, but it's a Setosa. And she's quite pretty. I've had this for a long time, so you may recognize her. She's a little difficult to get a good shot of from down here. And then we have this other random philodendron. I got this from Josh's Frogs a long time ago, and it's been through a few chops, and these are actually 2 top cuttings from the original plant that have just grown out there because it got really beat up with the pests as well. But I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but basically this plant tour is to show you how plants can recover and you can get ahead of a really bad infestation. I really hit a rough patch in life and did not take care of my plants the way that I wanted to, and a lot of them really took it hard. So all of these plants are basically on the mend after a long time of trial and error and trying to get rid of all the pests. Couple little straggler plants in the bedroom over here. If we look behind my Medusa crown from Halloween, excuse me. Oops. Here is a heart fern back here that I've kept alive for years. The trick is that it cannot breathe the same air as you. I've said this a million times and I stand by it to this day. Keep it in glass. Here's a fun little terrarium, and I will put the names of the plants on the screen here. Okay, and here we are in my office, which I sometimes call my laboratory because it looks like this all the time. It's just a crazy, chaotic mess of supplies and all of my plants. And this is also where I hide the books that I don't have room for on my shelves. And then there's all my botanical books, which are also over there. And there's like a bunch of stuff over here. So in the interest of this not being a full-length feature film, we're going to zip through these pretty quickly. In the bird cage right over here, we have a partially dead Cissus adenopoda. We're hoping to revive that. Done it before. Wish me luck. Back there, there is an umbrella plant. I believe it's a Schleifera. This is an umbrella plant. We'll go with that. This also used to be attached to my grandmother's plants, and my aunt sent me up a piece of that. I have another philodendron brantianum. This one was an import, whereas the other one I just picked up locally. This is a Sansevieria or Dracaena. I believe it's a moonlight. It doesn't say, not helpful. Got a couple of these. These also came up from my grandmother's plants. Back here, we have an Alocasia lauterbachia. And then back here, we have this is a jungle cactus. You guys told me what this was before. It was like a quad something. Maybe you can tell me again in the comments, because I cannot for the life of me remember which one that is, or where I got it, how it came to me, where it came from. I don't know. Somebody might have sent it to me and now I'm a jerk, but I don't actually remember on that one. Here we have one of those holiday flowers. It's a, oh boy. Back here we have a Guisnelia, I think is how you say it. Guisnelia? Hold on. Guisnelia Mamaranta. This is another plant from my grandmother. We have the philodendron atabapoense back there. Atabapoense, I'm not sure how to say it. Very, very pretty plant. I just turned it, so it's a little wonky, but it is gorgeous and a very good grower. I have a Queen of the Night Sirius cactus back there. It's actually like trailed all back through there. I gotta pull it out. We have a Anthurium clarinervum right here, clarinervium. And this plant is how I met Becca de la Plants, because I won an Instagram giveaway that she was doing for this plant, and it's never really had more than 2 or 3 leaves, but that's okay. I have a philodendron pink princess and a ring of fire right here, which mostly looks like a jungle boogie, but it is actually allegedly a ring of fire. The Syndapsis over here, Pilea peperomioides, which has all kinds of action going on in there. This is a peperomia that got knocked over by the cats, so that is in recovery mode because it took me a while to repot it. I've got a bunch of cuttings down here. You will recognize this from my repotting when I was repotting the Rare Plant Shop plants recently. And with that one back there, you guys will have just seen me repot all of these. This little guy here. Got an Anthurium pedata radiatum back there. That one was also from Erin. Quite a few plants from Erin in here. This is a Peperomia quadrangularis. Just another cutting of that guy. You can see my large Monstera deliciosa over there just catching some window light. It desperately needs a better pull. I'm gonna do it, I swear. Carl over here recovering from the repot nicely. This is my Burley Marks. Here's a Pastazanum with a hideous leaf right there. Less hideous leaf right here. New, hopefully not hideous leaf coming in right there. And then I've got a recovering Begonia Leopon in there. You can see it's coming back, I swear. It's in, there it is. This little Hoya right here. And this recently just yellowed a little bit. I think this might have been from the systemic treatments because usually it was looking really good. So hopefully she's doing all right. I'm gonna lay off the systemic and give her a little fertilizer and see if that helps things. Another snake plant down here. And then just behind my studio light here is my one of my mystery philodendrons. Not really sure which one that is, but I actually got it as a teeny tiny plant from Josh's Frogs, and it's just enormous now. And then I think there's more back there. Yeah, there's more back there. Oh, we also got a rattlesnake calathea back there. There, where is it? Oh, there she is. Clearly I just still in the process of moving these for winter, so don't mind the chaos. And then over here in my filming area where my library is a forlorn little aloe plant. This also came from my friend when she moved away a long time ago, so I've had this plant for like over a decade. And I just got it this cute little light. My friend Erica hooked me up with a couple of these little halo lights, so it didn't come with the plug thingy, so once I get one of those, this poor plant will get some light finally, after being a prop for my videos for too long. Okay, guys, that's all I can handle at this point in time. My throat hurts and I'd like to stop talking now. So I hope that you enjoyed this little plant tour. I apologize that I have spaced out on some names and that not everything is quite up to snuff, but I think that a lot of people will appreciate seeing that just because, you know, you can have a large collection and be really obsessed with this stuff and still, you know, have a couple of bad months and really screw up your collection for a while. So I hope that this provides you with a little bit of hope that even if your plants are looking kind of sad right now, you can get it back. Just takes a little bit of work every day, and eventually it adds up to a happy plant collection. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.